you hit some pretty big issue areas there. Tell us a little bit. I think first we want to talk about the food safety, because we heard about that big egg recall earlier this year. Could you tell us about how factory farming is impacting food safety?
Yeah. You know, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher, so it's hard for me to go into specifics, but I can tell you that there's a lot of research out there and some pretty compelling evidence that shows that the impact, for example, with salmonella is much, much more prevalent with these confined systems. And then you can take that a step further and say, okay, if we have these environments that are incubating these diseases and problems and stuff, what would happen if somebody wanted to infiltrate that system, a bioterrorist, for example, and do something to our food supply? Well, if you have an entity that produces billions and billions of eggs, and they have hundreds of thousands of animals in one building, they could do that fairly easily, and the magnitude of the problem would be so widespread that we'd have a hard time controlling it.
Absolutely. Now, another thing that I notice when I drive back up to see my dad and mom up in Wayne, Nebraska, I go through some areas that have some intense feedlot operations. I mean, they're huge, they're intense, and the water, you can see that the groundwater is impacted. Could you tell us a little bit more of what happens with confinement operations and in the environment?
Well, again, it's a logistical problem. In nature, there's a symbiosis between plants and animals. And everybody that's ever had a biology course or ecology course understands that. And there's a certain balance between animals and plants. And what we've done is disrupted that balance. So we take, say, 10,000 or 50,000 or in some cases 100,000 head of cattle and put them in a small area. There's no way that you can control the amount of waste and the dust and the odor that go along with these systems. It's not possible. And even though they've done things technology has allowed us to maybe minimize that to a certain degree, you just can't get past the logistical problem. And then you have all the waste that's got to go back out onto the land. And what you see a lot of times is that waste is going back onto maybe a fourth or a third as much land as it really needs to go onto.
Okay.
So, because and then you have contamination on the land, and then runoff, which contaminates streams and rivers.
So it's a huge cycle that's going on. I like how you talk about the relationship between plants and animals. Now, I really admire your courage. I think a lot of farmers feel in their heart that maybe there needs to be more discussion about the ethical treatment of farm animals. But you have, you're a member of the Humane Society of the United States. Could you explain what kind of organization that is?
Yeah, the Humane Society of the U.S. is the largest animal protection organization in the country, and then I think possibly in the world. They have millions of members and supporters. And they're an organization that, pure and simple, they try to help protect animals and make the world a better place for animals, not just farm animals, but animals in all different facets of life and around the globe, because they have an international association too. And they've been mislabeled as, a group that is anti-agriculture, pushing a vegan agenda, and they don't want anybody to have livestock or pets, and that's sort of like, people promote this, but I can tell you without a shadow of doubt that there's no basis for that, and there's no truth to that.
Okay.
A lot of their members are meat eaters, hunters, farmers. I've worked with other farmers in HSUS with them, but people feel threatened is the people that are running these factory farms and CAFOs, because they're the only organization and the first organization that really has ever had the resources to implement any changes. So these people feel threatened, and they say, well, if you make us take these animals out of cages and crates, you're going to make us eliminate all animals. It's sort of that, if we give them an inch, they'll take a mile. That's not true.
So you're a farmer, and you're going down the road of sustainable agriculture, which is creating that good balance between animals and plants and us and animals, human beings and animals, can you still make a profit?
Definitely. And I would say that anybody that says that they cannot afford to raise animals in an ethical, humane manner, I mean, first of all, that's a cop-out. Second of all, if you believe that, if you truly believe that, you're in the wrong business. And you have no business being a livestock producer or owning or managing animals, because absolutely you can do that. In fact, you can probably, in most cases, make a better profit by bringing those animals back onto the land. I mean, we're a great example of that. You know, we give a lot of tours, and we've had people from every continent in the world, with the exception of Antarctica, come and visit our farm.
Oh, really?
And a lot of the states from around the U.S. So people come and look at what we're doing, because we're doing some unique things, but at the same time, one of the reasons they come is because we believe in total transparency, showing people what we're doing. There's not a single thing that we do on our farm, well, if there is, anything that we do on our farm that we would be afraid to show somebody that came to visit us from New York City or from London or from Omaha, Nebraska, then we need to stop and say, is that something we really should be doing? So I'm a full believer in total transparency and total accountability. Whatever I'm doing on my farm, I need to stop and think, how is that going to affect, one, my own family, my own operation, my neighbors, the people downwind, the people downstream, in terms of dust, odors, runoff, because I can pour chemicals on my farm that could ultimately end up in the Gulf of Mexico. And I think sometimes we don't stop and realize the impact that we have. And if we don't take accountability as farmers, who's going to?
Absolutely.